Hello. I'm going to continue reading The Indian in My Cupboard. Omni ran all the way to Yap's and got there before most other children had even got out of school. In 10 minutes, the place would be full of kids buying potato chips and sweets and toys and comics. Just now, he had it to himself, and he had to make the most of the few minutes that he had. He went directly to the corner where the boxes of plastic figures were kept and stood with his back to the main counter. He was still holding Little Bear and Boone in his hand, and he put them down among the figures in the Cowboys and Indians box. He hadn't reckoned on Boone's sensitive nature, however. "Holy catfish! Look at all them dead bodies!" he squeaked, hiding his eyes. "There must have been a massacre." "Not dead," said Little Bear scornfully. "Plastique." He kicked a plastic cowboy aside. "Too many," he said to Omni. "You find woman I choose." "You'll have to be quick," said Omni in a low voice. He was already rummaging through the box, picking out the Indian women. There were very few. Of the 5 that he found, 1 was clearly old, and 2 had babies tied on their backs and parcels laced up like boots. "You don't want one with a baby, I suppose?" Little Bear gave him a look. "No, I thought not," said Omni hastily. "Well, what about these?" He stood the 2 other figures on the edge of the table. Little Bear jumped down and faced them. He looked carefully first at one, then at the other. They both looked the same to Omni, except the one had a yellow dress and the other had a blue. Each had a black pigtail and a headband with a single feather and moccasins on her feet. Little Bear looked up. His face showed furious disappointment. "No good," he said. "But there aren't any others." Many plastique. You look good, find other." Omni rummaged frantically right to the bottom of the box. Kids were beginning to come into the shop. He had almost despaired when he saw her. She laid face down on the very bottom of the box, half hidden by 2 cowboys on horses. He pulled her out. She was the same as the others, apparently, except she wore a red dress. They obviously all came out of the same mold because they were all in the same position, as if walking. If the others were ugly, so would this one be. Well, without much hope, he set her before Little Bear. He stood staring at her. The shop was getting busy now. At any moment, somebody would come up behind him wanting to buy a plastic figure. "Well," said Omni impatiently. For another 5 seconds, Little Bear stared. Then, without speaking a word, he nodded his head. Omni didn't wait for him to change his mind. He scooped him and Boone back into his pocket and, picking up the approved figure, made his way to the counter. "Just this one, please," he said. Mr. Yap was looking at him. A very odd look. "Are you sure you only want the one?" he asked. "Yes." Mr. Yap took the plastic figure and dropped it into a bag and gave it back to Omni. 10 pence. Omni paid and left the shop. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He spun around. It was Mr. Yap. The look on his face was now not odd at all, but red and angry. "Now you can hand over the other 2 that you stole." Omni stood aghast. "I didn't steal any." "Don't add line to your faults, my lad. I watched you put them in your pocket. There was a cowboy and an Indian." Omni's mouth hung open. He thought he was going to be sick. "I didn't," he tried to say, but no words came out. "Turn out your pockets." "They're mine," Omni managed to gasp. "A likely story. And I suppose you brought them out to help you choose the new one?" "Yes," said Mr. Yap heavily. "Come on, stop playing around. I lose hundreds of pounds worth of stuff a year to you thieving kids. When I do catch one of you red-handed, I'm not likely to let it pass. I know your sort. If I let you off, you'll be boasting to your pals at school how easy it was to get away with it. And most likely back you'll come tomorrow for another pocketful." Omni was now fighting back tears. Quite a crowd had collected, much like the crowd in the art room, some of the same people even, but his feelings were no longer so pleasant. He wished he could die or disappear. It's no use good trying to get around me by crying, Mr. Yap shouted. Give me them back right now or I'll call the police. But all at once, Patrick was beside him. They're his, he said. I know they're his because he showed them to me at school. There's a cowboy with a white hat and an Indian in a chief's headdress. He told me he was coming to buy a new one. Omni wouldn't steal. Mr. Yap let go of Omni and looked at Patrick. He knew Patrick quite well because it happened that Patrick's brother had once been his paperboy. Will you vouch for him then? Of course I will, said Patrick staunchly. I'm telling you, I saw them both this afternoon. But still, the shopkeeper wasn't absolutely convinced. Let's see if they fit your description then. Omni, who had been staring at Patrick as if some miracle had been delivered, felt his stomach drop into his shoes once more. But then he had an idea. He reached both hands into his pockets. Then he held out one hand slowly, still closed, and everybody looked at it, though it was actually empty. The other hand he lifted to his mouth as if to stifle a cough and whispered into it, Lie still, don't move, plastic. Then he put both hands before him and opened them. The men played along beautifully. There they laid, side by side, stiff and stark, as like if they were lifeless plastic figures as they could possibly be. In any case, Omni was taking no chances. He gave Mr. Yap just one long enough look to see that they were dressed as Patrick had said before closing his fingers again. Mr. Yap grunted. Well, they're not from my shop anyway, he said. I'm going to leave it at that. That was a close call for Omni, I think. He must have been absolutely mortified. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will continue reading at another day. Bye-bye.